Hello and welcome to Mind Matters, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of mental health and neuroscience. As always, I'm your host, Amelia.
And I'm Sindhu. Today we're talking about a topic that touches many lives, that is Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, that's right. So, this condition is one that affects millions of people worldwide and has a profound impact on families and communities.
Correct. It is a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior. Although Alzheimer's is not the same as dementia, it is in fact one of the leading causes of dementia. It is simply a general term for memory loss or other cognitive disability serious enough to interfere with daily life.
Yeah, now for those of you who aren't really aware of what Alzheimer is, it is something that mostly affect people that are 60 or older. The greater known risk factor is aging for Alzheimer, and it also can be affect younger people too, though it's less common.
Exactly. We often hear about memory loss being a key symptom, but Alzheimer's involves much more than that. So, people with Alzheimer's may also experience confusion, difficulty with language, and even changes in their mood and personality.
Yes, that is correct. The disease is known to progress over time, and unfortunately, it can be very challenging not only for those diagnosed, but also for their caregivers. It's a heavy burden to bear, and understanding more about it is crucial.
Yes, so to help us dive deeper into what Alzheimer's disease is, we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Shradha Bachani, who is a leading neurologist and researcher in the field of Alzheimer's disease. She'll be helping us understand more about this condition, its causes, and give us an idea of what the latest in research and treatment. She also has written a recent paper on measuring the efficacy of sleep intervention device for individuals with early onset Alzheimer's.
Okay, but before we bring her in, let's talk a bit about what we know. Did you know that Alzheimer is named after Dr. Alois Alzheimer?
Oh, we can always count on you to bring in the fun facts, Amelia.
Oh yes, so he was the first to describe the disease in 1906.
Yeah, I did in fact know that. He's the one who noticed changes in the brain tissue of that woman who had died of an unusual mental illness.
No, precisely, as Shamila and Knight found in 2020, her symptoms had included memory loss and unpredictable behavior. And after she died, Dr. Alzheimer examined her brain and found many abnormal clumps and tangled bundle of fibers, which are now known as amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. What tragic about this, perhaps, and also somewhat fascinating, is how these changes in the brain lead to the symptoms we see.
It's kind of heartbreaking, honestly. Not to get too deep here, but just to relate to a personal experience of mine for a second. I remember my granddad, who was suffering from Alzheimer's a couple of years back, and as his disease was progressing, he was slowly forgetting the names of his own children and grandchildren, in fact.
Oh, I don't remember that. And how much of a tough time that was for the family.
It was, but mainly so because there's no cure, for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, but there are treatments that can help manage these symptoms, as found by Sharma in 2019, and these were found to have improved quality of life. But you are right, they don't stop the disease from progressing altogether.
And that's why research is so vital. Scientists today are working hard to find better ways to treat the disease and delay its onset.
Yeah, that's right. I did something reading of my own and found that it's an area of an intense research and one that holds a lot of hope for the future. One of these researchers is here with us today. So let's bring her in to give us more insight into this disease.
All right, that's it. So joining us now is Dr. Shradha Bachani. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's great to be here.
Yes,
We are
it
so glad you made the time to be here despite your busy schedule.
yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. But Doctor, very important question. First up, how long have you been listening to our podcast for?
Oh, ever since it was launched, definitely.
Oh, I see. So what would you say your favorite episode is?
Oh, that the one with the anxiety one, was it?
Right, Amelia,
Ah, I remember
the
that.
one, yeah, the one about anxiety, right?
Yeah.
The one about
That
depression.
never happened, did it?
Oh, that would be. All right, so that's this thing we do with our guests where we ask them how they're doing, just a little mental health check-in.
So, Shradha, how have you been doing nowadays?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm actually just coming here from watching this cricket match.
You're a cricket fan. We have another one of those right here. Don't tell me it was the same match you were watching, Amelia.
Oh, did you mean the IPL qualifiers?
Yes, RCB finally did something right by winning the match.
Okay, guys. We have very quickly turned this into a sports podcast. Shall we get back on track?
Yes, absolutely. We'll just not speak about the fact that you are feeling left out there for a second.
Yeah, haha, funny. All right.
Okay, getting back to our topic. It's easy to get sidetracked when there's so much fascinating stuff to discuss. But Alzheimer is such an important subject. I think understanding the basic is a good place to start. So, doctor, can you start by explaining in simple terms what Alzheimer disease is?
Yes, of course. So, Alzheimer's disease, as you must know, is a condition that affects the brain. It's almost like when you have a computer, and over time it starts to slow down, glitch, and eventually stops working properly. To put it into perspective, it's that the brain cells gets damaged and die, which leads to difficulty for the person to remember things and think clearly.
Right, yeah. And to even carry out the simplest of tasks, right?
Precisely. But it's more than just about forgetting things occasionally. It's in fact a serious and progressive condition, which obviously means that gradually gets worse over time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Early on, you can say that someone with the condition might just have mild memory problems, like forgetting recent conversations or misplacing items. But as the disease progresses, these memory symptoms become more severe and more noticeable.
So eventually, the person will become unable to carry out daily tasks and will need full-time care. Will they not?
Yes, they will, which, is the sad reality of the situation.
Indeed it is. But what causes Alzheimer's disease, and are there any specific risk factors that we should be aware of?
Well, the exact cause of Alzheimer's isn't fully understood, I'd say, even by us researchers, but it can involve a combination of factors. Age is one of them, as most people with Alzheimer's are 65 and older. Genetics also do play a role, so if you have a family history of the disease, your risk is automatically higher.
Oh, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I also read an article, that said the CDC also has researchers studying whether education, diet, and environment play a role in developing Alzheimer's disease.
Right, yes. But there's also evidence showing that physical, mental, and social activities may reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So when we talk about AD, there's always something positive to take away from the discussion.
Of course. Yep, understand.
But to clarify, I say that seeing the focus we have today in studying the disease, which is a very good and important thing to remember.
Yeah, of course. I would say so, yeah.
That's interesting. We have also had our listener write into the podcast concerned about the early symptoms of Alzheimer's. Could you tell our listener what sign they should look out for?
Absolutely. So early symptoms often include having trouble remembering recent events or appointments or even names, actually. People might also find it hard to make plans or complete tasks they're familiar with. They might even get lost in places they know very well or have difficulty with language, like finding the right words to say. And as the disease progresses, these symptoms just becomes more and more pronounced.
I see. It sounds like recognizing these signs early can make a big difference. So, what should a person do if they notice these symptoms in either themselves or perhaps a loved one?
Well, if you notice these symptoms, it's always important to see a doctor. Early diagnosis can provide a better chance to manage these symptoms and plan for the future. There are also medications that can help alleviate symptoms, and being diagnosed early allows for better support and resources to be put in place.
Oh, so doctor, can you speak to the importance of ongoing support and education for individuals living with Alzheimer's and their families who are oftentimes also their caregivers? How can community better support those affected by this disease?
Obviously, ongoing support and education is very vital for both individuals with Alzheimer's and their caregivers. There was this research done in 2011 by Pons that showed that education about the disease's progression and coping strategies improved their overall well-being. There were also support groups that reduced isolation and caregiver burden while enhancing coping skills. There were also evidence of communities helping by offering dementia-friendly programs and raising awareness to reduce stigma. Overall, let's say these efforts create more supportive environments for those affected by Alzheimer's.
Okay, so speaking of medication and treatments here, what are these treatments that are available currently for Alzheimer's?
Right. So as I said, there are medications. These would include inhibitors, which include galantamine or memantine. But those inhibitors are used to treat only mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease, which can help improve or stabilize symptoms for only a while. There are also non-pharmacological treatments, which, as you must know, is management without medication, which most prefer. There's also this therapy, cognitive stimulation therapy to be precise, which is something that falls under one of these non-pharmacological treatments. And it's something that's used to sustain cognitive functions and improve the overall quality of life for individuals.
Oh, I've actually read about this therapy. It was also found by Capotostel and his colleagues in 2017 that it helps improve mood, reduce feelings of loneliness, and improve emotional well-being.
Right, yeah, it's true.
So on the note, doctor, you have recently written a paper on a particularly interesting study involving a sleep intervention device for individuals with early onset Alzheimer's. So can you share more about the study?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, our research focused on measuring the efficacy of sleep intervention device. This was an EEG headband with phase-locked acoustic stimulation device, which was designed to improve sleep quality in individuals with early onset Alzheimer's disease. And it was also to address the problem of episodic memory decline, which is something that is known to happen in patients daily.
Oh, so I see. Could you explain to us what the function of episodic memory is?
Yes, absolutely. So, episodic memory is the ability to remember specific events or experiences from your past. It's like a mental diary that lets you recall personal moments, such as your last birthday, probably, or your first day at a new job. It's way different from remembering facts or skills, like knowing the capital of a country or how to ride a bike. In fact, it's all about recalling personal and lived experiences.
All right. So could you specify for our listeners how episodic memory was measured before and after the sleep intervention?
Right. So this was actually done using the Ray Auditory Verbal Learning Test. What this test consists of, essentially, is learning and recalling a list of words over multiple trials. So this provided us with, I'd say, a quantitative measure of episodic memory function.
Oh, so I see.
Yeah, so we had the participants take this test before and after the intervention period, which allowed us to see a clear differentiation of results in episodic memory.
Ah,
Okay.
okay, I got it.
So, okay, so this makes me curious, as to what made you focus your research on sleep quality specifically.
Okay, so that actually came after we reviewed a bunch of studies early on, which, revealed that poor sleep quality came up as a very common symptom in Alzheimer's patients and was actually known to exacerbate symptoms like anxiety or irritability, which further impacted the overall patient's quality of life.
Right, right. Yes, I'm sure that, yeah.
So another thing that we learned from past studies was that this led to the buildup of, these abnormal proteins in the brain, which again contributed to this episodic memory decline, and in conjunction in the progression of Alzheimer's. So, seeing all of this, the hope was that this device would regulate sleep patterns and improve overall sleep quality, which in turn may help in managing some of the cognitive and behavioral symptoms associated with Alzheimer's.
Okay, is very fascinating, doctor. I admire your motivation. Could you tell that what were the findings of your study?
The findings were actually quite promising. The PLAS intervention significantly improved sleep quality, and this improvement was associated with a slower decline in episodic memory. So, this suggests that targeting sleep quality specifically could be an effective non-pharmacological approach to slowing overall cognitive decline in Alzheimer's.
I see. That's very interesting, seeing that people prefer, non-pharmacological treatments as opposed to taking medication. But what were the implications of these findings?
So, the implications were both theoretical and practical. Theoretically, the study reinforced the connection between sleep quality, particularly slow wave sleep, and cognitive function, which suggested that improving sleep quality can positively impact memory and cognitive health.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Practically, it offers us a potential pathway for improving the quality of life for individuals with Alzheimer's and even their caregivers, actually, as by enhancing sleep quality, we can potentially slow down cognitive decline and improve overall health and mood.
Right, yes. So that would undoubtedly reduce the burden on caregivers as they'd have to deal with less, for lack of a better word, unpredictability.
No, yes, that's very true.
Oh, it sounds like this could be a significant step forward in managing early onset Alzheimer disease.
Yep, for sure. It's very relieving and hopeful to hear that there is available medication and ongoing research on such treatments.
Yes, indeed. However, the study also highlighted for us the need to do further research, such as the need to explore the long-term effects of this intervention and also its applicability to a broader population.
Absolutely. Okay, and understandably so. But I think overall, what I can gather from this very insightful discussion is that Alzheimer's is a condition that starts off uh, with the accumulation of abnormal proteins in the brain, and this then manifests through loss of memory and behavioral changes.
Yep, that's correct. And though there is no cure to treat the disease altogether, there are emerging treatments like the one Dr. Shradha just stated, among others.
Yes, yes. And I do hope this research gives hope and direction for future treatments and interventions.
Same as am I. Before we wrap up today's episode, what advice would you like to give to our listener about maintaining brain health and possible prevention step to that for Alzheimer's, doctor?
So, my advice would actually be something that we're already pretty familiar with. That is to stay active, both mentally and physically. Now, this may sound too general, admittedly, but it's true. Whether it's through engaging in activities that challenge your brain or maintaining a healthy and nutritious diet, it's always very important to go back to the basics and to see whether we're actually doing that right?
Oh, yes, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, right, as do I.
But speaking of activities, could you give us perhaps some examples of mentally stimulating activities that might help keep our brains healthy?
Yes, so there was actually the study done some time back. I think it was in 2014. It was by Kelly and her colleagues, if I'm not wrong. And in it, they found that activities like reading, playing musical instruments, or engaging in hobbies that require strategic thinking, like chess, can actually be very beneficial. Social interaction, I think, is also super crucial. So, spending time with friends and family, volunteering, or participating in group activities can help keep the brain engaged and healthy.
Okay, would you say that individuals in general can also do this to support their episodic memory as they age, especially if they are at risk for Alzheimer's?
Definitely. These specific activities we discussed are not only tailored for those with early onset Alzheimer's, in fact, can be very beneficial for the general population as well, as these can contribute to overall brain health.
Yeah.
Lastly, Doctor, can you share any feedback from the participants about their experiences or with the sleep intervention?
Yes, of course. So the feedback we received was generally very positive. Many of them reported feeling more rested because of the fewer disturbances they experienced during the night. One participant even mentioned that using the EEG headband helped them fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer, which reported to have made a huge difference in their daily energy levels and mood. There were also caregivers reporting that their loved ones were less agitated and more cooperative after better quality sleep, which, naturally eased some of the challenges for them as well.
Yeah, that's
One
good to hear.
Indeed, it is. One thing we noticed, though, is that some required an initial adjustments period to get used to wearing the headband, but they adapted within a few days, which was good to see.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that, honestly.
Yeah, as am I. Now we are approaching the end of the episode, but before we wrap up it here, I really want to say thank you for coming out here, Doctor. We really appreciate you for having joined us today.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Oh no, don't mention it. I'm happy to be here.
And finally, thank you to our listeners for tuning into this episode of Mind Matters. We hope you found this discussion on Alzheimer's disease informative and helpful.
Last, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, and follow us on social media for more updates and episodes. Until next time, take care of your mind and body.